Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the BuzzStream Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Nero, and today I am thrilled to be joined by Ellie Hearn. She's the digital PR strategist at Resignal. How you doing, Ellie?
I'm good, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have you, obviously. Ellie, you've been around doing digital PR for a long time. You've been at all the major, I feel like, agencies in the UK, Digitaloft, Aira, Journey Further, to name a few. And now you're at Resignal. And so today I wanted to talk to you about getting started at a smaller agency, building a digital PR offering. And because I think there's a lot of people out there that are curious about digital PR. There's a lot of agencies these days that are getting into digital PR. But before we get into all that, I just want to remind people to like and subscribe, share this stuff with your clients. Then the more that you do, the more you get this stuff out there, the more I can have great guests on like Ellie. So Ellie, let's tell people a little bit about your background and how you eventually ended up at Resignal.
Yeah, so I started at Hillary's, who I feel like were a bit of a trailblazer in terms of digital PR, which I definitely didn't know when I first joined. Originally, I was split between trad PR and digital PR, which I actually think has come in really handy throughout my career. I had an amazing manager, shout out to Lucy Askew, who taught me everything I knew to start with. And then I moved down to London during the pandemic, which was kind of a crazy move. Started at Digitaloft, also have an amazing team over there. Then I went to iProspect, which was pretty amazing, worked with some big names. Then I went over to Aira, which was fab in terms of a creative and data standpoint. And then most recently was at Journey Further, where I was for 2 years, which was a long stint, and it was a very, very good experience. Absolutely love the team there. And yeah, recently joined Resignal with Shannon, who I love, absolutely. And yeah, we're starting work on building out the digital PR team, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, so awesome, first of all, that you've had such a great experience at all of these places. I feel like that's, I don't want to say rare, but like it's great. I feel like you're doing it the right way, where you're not staying long enough where you get burnt out. It feels like you're just kind of moving to the next one once you've kind of gained some cool knowledge and whatnot. Okay, so that kind of sets the stage as to where you're at Resignal. It did sound like you obviously you did a lot of digital PR before. Tell me a little bit too, for listeners, so we're all kind of on the same page. When you said trad PR and digital PR, where's that delineation line?
So I guess trad PR was more around product launches, collection launches, in-person events, relationship building with journos. Like I think I even went and did desk drops with cakes to a few journalists, which I feel like is so crazy to say today. So it was much more those tactics. We were more interested in getting in print rather than kind of building links or getting online brand mentions. But my role was 50-50 split. So at the same time as I was doing that, I was doing the digital PR campaigns. And that was back kind of in the glory days when it was stuff like, I think we did a sleep calculator. We did a parent saving calculator. It was a calculator days.
Right.
And they're so fun to work on. I think looking back, the relevancy maybe wasn't there as much as we thought it was at the time, but we live and we learn.
Yeah, hey, I mean, those can still work. I should dig into that a little bit, because I know that was such a good like building strategy, digital PR strategy for a lot of people. And if you could tie it to a keyword, you get a lot out of it. And there are like bottom funnel calculators, but I'm really curious how much of that AI is taking for people. So that's I'm going to make a note of that to maybe dig into the calculator.
Yeah.
So traditional PR. Now, I do want to ask a follow-up question there about the traditional PR stuff, because from a lot of people I've talked to who have a similar background to you, they have said that there is a lot more of kind of this melding of the two. And like some digital PR agencies are actually doing some more of these, product launches and even some in-person events. Do you feel that is happening? Have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think more acutely over the past year or so, I feel like traditional and digital PR are coming together, and I think one day in the very near future, it's going to be just PR. We're not going to have that distinction. I think Amy Gibson at Digitaloft does a really amazing product PR. I learned so much from her, and also the ways to get product PR to work from a digital PR point of view as well. It is challenging with affiliate links and stuff like that, but there's definitely, I think with the rise of LLMs and stuff like that, I think we're seeing all types of links and brand mentions matter. So I think looking forward, that's going to become a more important tactic in the digital PR toolkit.
Well, all right, let's drill down on that, because now we're talking about like starting a digital PR offering. You've mentioned some of these agencies that do, that I guess are more full service agencies and maybe they do digital PR, but they also have some of these trad PR offerings. What are kind of some of the core services that you would say go into digital PR if you're thinking of starting an agency or starting an offering?
So I think at the core, digital PR is just really good PR, essentially. And I think Google kind of rewards that. It's going to reward it more and more. I think if you're getting your brand in between conversations that are relevant to their target audience, if you understand their buyer personas, if you're creating genuinely helpful content, and I know that's a bit of a buzzword, but if it is genuinely helpful content, I think that you can't really go wrong. I guess in terms of digital PR, it's prioritizing those sites that are follow link giving. Although I do think that's becoming less and less important. I think having campaigns that can transcend across socials is going to become more and more important as well. I think brand awareness, as well as just the traditional link building side of things, is going to become more important as well. So I think in terms of what your toolkit needs to be, it's outreach generally, product PR for sure, campaigns, reactive comments, I think are huge. Any newsjacking opportunities, I feel like that's becoming more and more important. But essentially that all needs to be underlined by good SEO. So what you really need is you need a strong organic opportunity analysis to find out what keywords you could be ranking for that you're not quite hitting those good positions yet. I think you need to understand where your competitors are getting links, where you're not getting links. More importantly, where your competitors haven't got links yet, that you can get links and kind of leapfrog them a little bit like that. So I think having a really good understanding of the SEO fundamentals and then doing good PR is essentially digital PR in a nutshell.
Yeah, wow, I love that. I know a lot of people are kind of pushing away from, well, not pushing away, but as you said, kind of the melding of like the traditional and digital. I feel like some people are coming at this from different angles, but I do love that you still kind of have that strong foundation in SEO, because I agree. I mean, if you're doing it digital first, right? Like that's going to have these repercussions across your brand and your website digital footprint. Do you find that the SEO side of things is any less important in the advent of AI and AI overviews and GEO, whatever, all these acronyms? But like if people are searching less or they're searching, they're not clicking as many blue links, and Google's works AI mode, all this stuff kind of works slightly differently than the traditional way that we've always kind of done it with digital PR. Have you found yourself working in different ways?
I think the core principles are pretty similar in terms of as long as you're creating relevant content, it's going to rank. For example, we had a campaign for a client a few weeks ago, and within 24 hours, it was ranking in AI overviews. So I think, and we hadn't optimized it at all for AI. We hadn't really massively been prioritizing that for this campaign, but it did it anyway. So I think the core principles are still going to be the same. But having said that, it's so new. I feel like there's not really enough data to be able to dig into it. Like we did a couple of projects recently, and the data only went back like 3 months. And we were like, it's very hard to draw conclusions about things that only have 3 months worth of data. So it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think watch this space. I think things may change. But I think if you're doing good PR, you're probably not going to get penalized. I think what Google's trying to do and what all these other sort of platforms are going to try and do is stop you from gaming the system. So like in the days of black hat SEO, I think anything that you're doing to try and outsmart the system isn't going to work. I think just take it back to basics and just make sure that you're serving your customers well. And that should hopefully translate.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. Although, unfortunately, it seems like the spammy stuff is working for a lot of people in the short term right now in AI and manipulating that stuff. But I agree with you. I mean, there's short-term gains there and not long-term thinking. So do you at Resignal, or do you recommend people starting and thinking about this stuff to kind of productize, I don't know if that's even a word, these different strategies where it's like, we will offer you just reactive PR, or, we're just going to build hero campaigns, or just respond to journalist requests? Or is it, the way you explained it kind of sounded to me more of like we're going to do digital PR for you. This is, it's more like retainer-based model. We're just going to like seek out the opportunities that best fit. How do you think about all that?
So I think retainer is definitely the way to go. I think project-based work is a little bit tricky because it can be hard to get things off the ground in a short space of time. I think to see real impact, you need to be building a steady drumbeat of links over a long period of time. But I'm not against a pilot project just to prove the concept can work and show that you can work together. I think in terms of the tactics you deploy, there are a few different things I think about. So is the team you're working with time poor? Because if they are, then maybe a newsroom approach isn't going to be great because they're not going to have time to sign off comments. And we know you need to be quick with it. I think it depends on the budget they've got available. It depends how much they need to be doing to close the gap with their competitors. If they're doing well and they just need to maintain their position, they probably don't need to throw everything at it. They can probably take a bit more of a step back. But I guess it depends on what their budget is, what their goals are. But also, I think it very much depends on the niche. So is there much opportunity for stuff? Because it's like, for example, fashion clients can be quite competitive. So I think you do need the hero campaigns. I think you do need big data sets. You've got lots of angles to go out after. Whereas other accounts, like I worked with a really great client a while ago who had an in-house nutritionist, and she was amazing. She had so much knowledge, and we were able to build very, very consistent links all the time just with comments. So I think it totally depends on the client. So I feel like that was another cop-out answer, but I think there are a lot of factors.
No, I mean, it's funny. Like, they're thinking about your answers. And I'm like, how could I answer this way, confidently as well? Like, I think there's so much like just institutional knowledge that, someone in your position has, where it's like you've done it for so long, you just know what works and what doesn't, and you understand the industries. And like, that is so important in some of these cases. I mean, if it leads me to like another question, and I have a handful that I wrote down, but like, if somebody doesn't have this type of background, right? Like, so you mentioned a couple of things. So like, if people are slow, if they're going to be slow to get back to you, right? It's like a big company. You don't really want to go the newsroom approach, the expert commentary, because you're not going to be able to turn it around as quickly. What are some other kind of tips? Just like, yeah, like to the shortcuts to all this institutional knowledge that you have.
Yeah. I think the first tip would be whatever sign-off time a client gives you, double it, because it's probably going to take longer than they think. And I don't think they're lying to you because they are trying to make your life more difficult. I think there's lots of things, especially when you first start working with a client, that come up that the client didn't even know was going to be a blocker. So I think allow more time when you're building a roadmap for a client, first of all. I think if you do have a client that has very slow sign-off times, something I found can be really helpful is sending over a bunch of stuff all at once. And then they can hopefully go through the process without having to revisit loads and loads of times. So I think doing that, like doing loads of production up front, definitely is helpful. And I also think maybe finding areas that they're not going to be so nervous about. So there are I think having a really in-depth onboarding is so important. That's something that Catherine Watson actually is an absolute champion of, and she's amazing at onboarding. She taught me so much, and it's all about really, really, really getting to know your client, because the more time you spend with them during that onboarding process, the easier your life's going to be throughout the course of the relationship, don't going to come up. We don't be shy to ask questions. I think when I first started with client comms, I felt like I should have known everything about them, and it would look unfair if I didn't.
Same.
And then I get into an awkward situation where I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm too scared to ask. So ask questions, be nosy. I think if a client doesn't want to answer a question, they're just going to say, no, I don't want to answer that. So don't feel shy to ask stuff. Find out what they're doing in other places in the business, because you might find out that you might not get something signed off because they're already doing that somewhere else. So I think just getting to know them is really going to help a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about deciding between the tactics, right? Like, what is going to work for different brands. And we don't have to get too far into it, but if there's any kind of high level, again, like the one that you said that I wrote down was like the expert commentary, like the journalist request, like if they don't have a lot of time, that one might not suit you as well. Or it's like I think you also said the blanking, one of the industries needed more data, the fashion industry, like lean into more data heavy stuff. So do you have any other tips like that kind of things that just come across over the years?
Yeah. So I think if you do want to go down the expert commentary route and your client is time poor, you can look on Response Source and you can actually look at really old requests. So you can see lots of stuff is seasonal. So for example, with our nutritionist, we knew that every year people were asking about winter colds. So if you know that winter cold season is going to come up, you can kind of almost build a year-long content bank. And there's loads of places distinctly have a really good content calendar that have loads of awareness days. There are so many of them if you Google it, and they can be really good. So you can kind of download a few of those and then just go through for all your different clients and build them individual ones. I think the way I think about tactics more generally, and I don't know anything about investing or stock portfolios or anything like that, but I think about it as the theory of that. So you want maybe some high risk stuff that might not work, but it might. You want some stuff that's probably going to work, but not be amazing. And then you want some stuff that's a little bit boring, but it will definitely bring in links. So I think there are different tactics that you can deploy. And I think getting to know your client and what they're going to be excited about and what you're going to be able to get pushed through is probably going to take a few months. But once you're in that groove, I think you can find your foot and you can get into like a really nice way of working.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's get into some of the client kind of messaging and stuff. So I remember, a lot of cases where maybe someone comes to you for digital PR. And I'm sure this is happening a lot more nowadays. I know I should be doing digital PR. So they come in with these like outsized expectations as to like what digital PR is and how much, how many links it can get you and whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about kind of the messaging and the kind of selling digital PR that needs to be done to cut through some of that, these.
Yeah. So I think the hardest thing about digital PR, apart from getting coverage, is proving the value of digital PR to clients. So I think there are a few things in terms of client comms. I think knowing who your client is. So are you talking to the brand PR team? Are you talking to the SEO team? Because they're going to have very different things they're interested in terms of how to sell it in. I think the days of just selling link numbers are long gone. I think you could get 100 links that might not do anything if they're irrelevant and if they're a bit spammy and if they're not good and if you've already got those links. Whereas I think you could get 10 to 20 links that are amazing and that really move the needle. So I think working really closely with the SEO team, the organic team. I work with a guy called Joe Kiley, who I also absolutely adore, at Journey Further, and he was just a whiz at turning the links that we'd get into real business impact. So I think we get a little bit in our own echo chamber of digital PR. We just think links, 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 but really the cares about, are we making them money at the end of the day?
Right.
If you can show that your links are having impact on, for example, a keyword set that you really want to target, if you're positively impacting that, and obviously it is hard to attribute it just to the digital PR work, but I think there is some cause and effect if you've been doing a lot of stuff around those keywords and you can show that maybe year on year, month on month, they're improving, then that's having real business impact. And that's something that they're going to be able to, that your client's going to be able to take to their boss and make them look good. Tip I have is building a relationship with your client contact, finding out what their objectives are or their team's objectives and how your work can ladder up to that. Because at the end of the day, if you make them look good, they're going to want to keep you around for as long as they can.
Yeah, I love that answer. What about the clients then I'm speaking, this is like an actual thing that happened to me. I was talking to someone kind of somewhat recently, and they were like, they were thinking about building digital PR services. And they did have a client who came to them with these expectations of, they were used to working with a link building agency that gets them thousands of links. So that conversation, it was really hard to have that conversation of like, you probably don't need as many links as you think, right? Like, talk to me kind of about the quality, like that conversation, quality over quantity. What does that look like when selling and setting up these services?
Yeah. So I think the first thing you have to do is understand why they want to build links. So no one wants to build links just for the sake of building links. You want to build links because you want to get a certain category or a certain area of your site seen by more people. Like that's essentially what we're trying to do. So understanding that, and then maybe doing an audit of their existing links that they've got and showing that really these links were built over this period, but it didn't impact your visibility. Before I joined, Shannon did a really amazing job of setting up a revalue score. So that looks at a number of different factors that we know impact the quality of a link. So is it a follow link? Has your client already got that link? So is it a fresh referring domain? Does it have a good DR? Is it relevant? All those sorts of things. I think there are a few more that I'm forgetting, but those kind of core principles really show whether a link is valuable or not. And I think as long as it's something where, even if you could see maybe someone from your buyer persona is going to be on that site and is going to engage in that content, that's a win. That's a really, really good link to have compared to having 1,000 links that no one's ever going to see.
Well, talk to me then a little bit about determining costs and fees. How do you go about doing that? Because I know cost per link is usually like, especially for some of these like older link, more traditional link building metrics, it's cost per link, cost per link. And I know we get into that as a crutch in the digital PR agency, but digital PR world, but how much impact does that have on cost and fees for someone setting up a digital PR service?
I have never worked anywhere that does cost per link. I have always worked, which is great. I've always worked places where we would cost up how much a campaign is going to take in terms of production. And then we can kind of leverage that against what that client's budget is and what they want to achieve over time. And I think a really good KPI to be held against is organic visibility improvements rather than link numbers. So that's something I'm always really passionate about. I do think there are some clients out there that want to see the link numbers, but I don't think you have to work with every client that approaches you. And I think sometimes for the sake of your team, for the sake of your reputation long term, there are certain clients which, and I'm sure lots of people at our agency side have had RFPs come in and have just gone, this is a walking red flag. And I've had a few clients like that in my time where when you get given the client, it's going to be a nightmare, and it is. And the client leaves unhappy, the team's unhappy, and it's just not good for anyone. So I think you need to find a client that is going to value the work you're bringing and has very similar values and morals to what you have.
Yeah. I mean, do you have those conversations where you have to connect the dots between links and organic traffic? Like, we need X amount of links to get you these gains in traffic?
Don't know if it's possible to say 20 links is going to get you this amount, because there's so many other variables. Like your site could break, or Google could do an algorithm update that could send everything plummeting that no one realizes. So I think it's very difficult, but I think you can benchmark it. You can look at similar clients of similar size and similar spaces, and you can say, this is the work we have done. It's a little bit harder when you're building an offering, but you can look at examples of competitors, and you can find out pretty much anything on Ahrefs these days and other platforms. So you can kind of see how many links they've got, how they've built them over time, look at link velocity. So if this competitor that's got much better visibility than you is building 20 links a month, you probably need to build 20 links a month or 25, and then you're probably going to appear higher than them. But you also need to remember that it's not just happening in digital PR world. We've also need to make sure that our tech SEO is good. We need to make sure our content's good as well, because otherwise you're going to be just chasing yourself round and round and round, trying to fix one thing. It's not really going to come together.
Yeah. That's a tough conversation to have for sure when you're right. The site itself is not in a good place and they're still trying to do PR or whatnot.
Yeah.
Talk to me, and I know you've mentioned this, sorry, but let's talk a little bit more about how long it takes to see results and what that conversation looks like for someone who is just starting out. What do you say to a client typically for digital PR?
So in terms of deliverables, I feel like you want to have about a month onboarding, getting to know the brand, coming up with ideas, figuring out ways of working. Then month 2 is probably going to be production, stuff like that. You might start a newsroom if that's a viable tactic. So you might start to see coverage come in around month 2. Month 3, ideally, you want to have things really flowing. You want to have a steady drumbeat of links coming in. And I think maybe after that point, it's going to take a little bit of time to see those improvements. Immediate things that you see with good PR coverage, like you can get the client excited by getting them in a publication they're really excited to be in. You can show the readership. You can show people engaging with it on social media. So I think it is a bit difficult the first few months to really show that value, because you haven't embedded yourself yet. You haven't got those sort of improvements that do take a little bit longer. And that's what I mean about digital PR not being perfectly suited to project work, because stop-start isn't a great approach for it. So you do need to kind of build it consistently over a period of time. But I think there are lots of other things you can get clients excited about in the meantime. And hopefully you'll have set expectations with that client during the pitch process and the onboarding process that this isn't going to be an overnight thing.
Yeah. I saw someone on Reddit yesterday was asking on the digital PR thread, like I had posted something about, I did this big analysis on YouGov surveys, and they produce all kinds of surveys. So I was like, what works well? And somebody was like, well, if I started doing something like this, like how long does it take even from like a pitch just to get a link? Like if I created a survey and pitched something to a journalist. And again, I mean, the answer is probably a lame one where it depends, but do you have when you get that asked, like there's only so many times you could say it depends to a client, right? Especially on a sales call, right? So what are some of the kind of tricks that you have to say for some of these estimates?
So it depends. I think in the US, the lead time's longer for stories. I've always found that journalists aren't in as much of a rush. For B2B titles, there's usually a bit of a longer lead time. I think it depends if the piece is very, very relevant. If it's a newsjacking piece about something that's breaking news story today, if you haven't got coverage by that day or the next day, it's probably not going to happen because I don't think people are going back like that. I think with a campaign, I would get worried if a campaign had been outreach for a week in the UK and wasn't getting links. That's when I'd be like, okay, let's really have a look at this and see what's going on. In terms of talking to clients, I think the approach is always, it's better to start off slow. We do A/B testing with our headlines. We send out to a couple of contacts, see which headlines are landing better. And then we slowly kind of keep doing that process over and over again. So I think it's all about setting expectations. But yeah, it does get a little bit tricky. Keep saying it depends to clients. That's a very SEO thing, I think.
Yeah. All right. What didn't we cover here? I think like maybe building a team. But let's talk about that. What are some challenges or some tips that you have for building up your team? When is it time to start hiring? What do you look for? That kind of stuff. Let's start with that. When do you know it's time to start building out your team?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult because you've got the pipeline. And then you've got the existing team's mental health, like you don't want to overwhelm them, but you also don't want to hire someone and then not have the revenue to keep it going. So I think it's difficult. I think you always want to be able to hire ahead of the curve. I think that's everyone's goal. The reality isn't always that. But I think we're lucky in the digital PR world because we have an incredible network of freelancers. Just absolutely top tier. And I don't know if other industries have that or if we realize how lucky we are. But there are some incredible freelancers out there. You do need to try and get them booked up because they do get booked up pretty quick. But I think you can kind of leverage freelancers until you're feeling really confident that you've got things signed, you've got some definite revenue coming in for the next few months. And ideally, you want to have a slow onboarding for that person that's joining the team as well. You don't want to hire someone and go, right, here's 5 accounts, you need to go straight away. You want to have that. You want to have time dedicated to them so they can get the most out of it for their career as well. And I think just being really open and honest with things. Like I'm a very honest person, maybe to my own detriment sometimes, but I think really setting expectations with people because we're all adults. We all kind of want to do a good job. Well, hopefully we all want to do a good job and have great careers. So I think if you're just honest with people, then you get the best out of them.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thinking back of having a network of freelancers seems to be such a great tool for any agency that's starting up. And I'm surprised, actually, I wrote down to ask you, like, are there services in the UK that provide that specifically for digital PR?
I don't know. That could be a money.
I feel like there should be, right?
Maybe this is a business idea. Yeah, I've always worked directly with freelancers that have typically been people I've worked with at agencies that have taken the leap to go freelance. So I've never needed a service, but yeah, that could be a money-making idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that case of like hiring ahead versus, oh, we got this new client, they want to close quickly, should we do it? And do we have enough manpower to do it? Or, So I think let's talk about then what you look for. I mean, even if it is a freelancer, how do you determine when you're building out this digital PR service, how do you determine that PR is someone that should join your team or that can help your team?
Me and Shannon have been talking about this, and it's it's like an ineffable quality. Like there's just some people that just have that spark, and it's really hard. I think it's being able to spot a headline, being able to anchor a story into the current news agenda, being someone that's confident to say this story isn't good, let's not do this, let's pivot. That's a real big skill. I think that it took me a long time to learn, because it feels like especially when you're a junior, it feels like you have to just say yes to everything. But I think saying no is actually a very key skill. But I think someone that's just hungry for it, someone that wants to do it because they want to get good coverage, not just a tick box exercise, like someone that's really genuinely engaged, and someone that has like critical thinking skills and that is thinking about bigger picture. Because I think someone that's just like, I need to get 5 links and that's it, job done, isn't going to really benefit the client long term. You need people to think, how can I really help this business? And if that's spotting an opportunity on response source that maybe doesn't fit within your remit but might help the client, and going for that, I think those just little extra touches kind of sets people apart.
All right, here's a hard one. And I kind of, speaking from experience, how do you incentivize a freelancer? Is it based off of the number of links they get, or is it you're paying them hourly to do the job? And like, it's tough because A, you know how long it takes, right, to do these things. But
Yeah.
also B, like, you know that sometimes like none of these things are sure bets, right? Like, you're not going to hire someone and expect them always to get coverage, because anything can happen, especially in the news realm. So
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to give me an answer because I know it's a tough one, but like, talk to me about walking that line, and like, are there any tips that you have?
So I think instead of thinking about it as incentivizing someone, I think it's about giving someone the tools to succeed. So if you have a freelancer coming in for just a few days, have everything ready for them, like have everything set up, have any question they might have, think about it before. Like, it kind of goes back to this onboarding thing. Like, even if you're just onboarding a freelancer, give them everything they possibly need so they can hit the ground running. I think being really honest and clear about expectations is important. If you say to them, the client's not happy, we really need to get coverage on these places specifically, they know what they're working towards. I think just saying someone, can you outreach this, and not giving them any parameters is not really going to help anyone, because then they don't know what they're aiming for. I don't love cultures where you have, this is your link target, you have to hit this or else. I don't think that's helpful either. But I think there's a happy middle ground. And I think saying, this is the ballpark, what we're looking for, this is the standard, and here's everything you need to get the job done. And then just unblocking anything that they might need unblocking, I think is kind of how I would go about it. And I've never really had to have a difficult conversation with a freelancer. So I think I've been very privileged in the freelancers I've worked with, that they've always got me loads of great coverage.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it speaks to your expertise in setting good example, setting them up for success, all that stuff. I mean, I think there is a skill to doing that, and it sounds like you have it. So, all right, Ellie, I know we're a little over time here. I want to just make sure, like, one of the things I like to ask at the end is like, what didn't I ask? What are some things that you want people to know that we didn't talk about, and when it comes to building a digital PR service?
I think one of the things is about how it can be kind of scary, and it feels not that you're alone, but it's hard to know what you can say and how honest you could be about things. And I've seen a couple of really great things from people on LinkedIn recently about them kind of oversharing about things. And I think just leveraging your network and kind of telling people the struggles you're having and getting insight on things, because I think everyone kind of goes through the same things in digital PR world. Like, we have very similar challenges. So I guess, yeah, just around on a personal level, it's kind of tricky to navigate. It's exciting and it's amazing, but it feels like a lot of pressure and there's a lot of unknowns, which is kind of a weird headspace to be in. So yeah, I think the things I've seen on LinkedIn recently of like, I think I saw a freelancer sharing his day rate, and I thought, wow, that's really honest. I don't know if I'd be so brave as to share that, but it's nice because then other people kind of know where to benchmark themselves. So I think we do have quite a great community in the SEO digital PR world where people are very open and honest, and it's really nice. So I think that would maybe have been a question, like, how do you deal with it, like, personally? And yeah, that's my answer as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. Like, being in the space that I'm in now, where I get to kind of just talk with people in the digital PR community, it is such an open, like, caring and space where people are always open to share tips, but also from like the mental health side of things, I think it is very open and loving. So yeah, I'd say the LinkedIn community, especially, even it's compared to like X, we were talking about this before, it's like I wouldn't even go on there anymore. Well, Ellie, this has been awesome. speaking of connecting, where can people find you if they want to talk about it and talk about their share their woes and concerns and troubles?
Yeah. LinkedIn, I think, is the best place to find me. Yeah. Anyone, feel free to drop me a message. And yeah, I look forward to chatting to people on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I always say in these podcasts, I will, share anything we talked about in the show notes, but also if you do have questions about this stuff, let me know in the comments. And if you want me to put you in touch with Ellie, I can do it from the comments in LinkedIn, Spotify, YouTube, all these places that we post this. But Ellie, thank you so much. And good luck out there for everyone starting the digital PR service from scratch, building up digital PR offering. Hopefully Ellie gave you some tips here and it's not as scary as it seems.
Thanks for having me.